If I was to go back a long way, we actually leased a barramundi boat, and that's how we started with the Kimberleys. That's how we knew the Kimberleys. That would be 30 years ago. So in those days, no one was doing charters. We used to be out for months at a time, and we'd never even see another boat.
Well, it basically began with Kylie and myself. We looked at, when we finished up with our last employer, we looked at going to the Caribbean and starting up over there and finding a boat to work on and do that. But then one evening Kylie said the problem with all of that is eventually we're going to want to come back to Australia.
And I was just a young, crazy girl, came up to the Kimberley and loved it, didn't ever want to leave, and we thought that maybe we could do it ourselves, having no business background or anything like that.
And then I think we just got talking and said, how about we start a company and build a boat? And it all happened from there. And things went quick, and we found some backers, and we designed a boat and got it built, and then we were off.
We put the idea together, went out looking for some money, couldn't find any because no finance companies or banks wanted to back us, being two people with no financial background, no business background, anything like that. So that made it a little bit more difficult. And so we kept asking around for people who might be interested in backing us. We found a couple of private investors that happened to be guests on other boats that we worked on, and they had a lot of faith and trust in us that we could do something good. So here we are.
I remember one day Kylie rang me very excited, and she said, Jax, I'm learning all these big business words, but they've asked me for an agenda, and what's an agenda? So I've just told them, yes, I'll get one sent tomorrow. And but she learned very quickly.
As I recall, Dick Vincent came to me, and it might have been 6 months or a year after the last trip I was on, and suggested that we might look at investing in a boat for Chris to become the skipper, Chris and Kylie to have their own business. And there was another person, Tony Proctor, and the three of us then sat down and worked something out.
Well, look, I'm not brilliant, but I'm pretty street smart, and I can usually pick people, and I had 100% confidence. I don't go into joint ventures on the drop of the hat, and I just felt so comfortable with the people I involved, and we got a lot of humour, and it was a great, great venture. Yeah, a great venture.
We got word that a local company was starting, and so Bill, knowing lots of people, started asking questions, and we got to hear about Kylie and Trippy. We paid the cheque, but we didn't realise at that time that we were actually the first people that paid any money. So I noticed that the cheque hadn't been cashed, and so we sort of said, was everything okay? And then we got Kylie laughing and saying, well, they just needed to look at it because it was the first one, so they hadn't cashed it for a while. I suppose I was a bit, oh my gosh, it's the maiden voyage, I hope everything's okay and if things go well, but it didn't take long to understand that especially Trippy's experience, that we would be okay.
You get to the stage where you trust each other with your life, basically, when we're up in the Kimberley, We do some silly things, but we're all right. We look after each other.
It was a wonderful, wonderful experience because every day you did something different. And I used to say to Pooney, but what's tomorrow going to be like? Is it going to be bigger than today? And he'd say, oh, Jax, you wait till the end. And boy, was that true, because if you're going to do the trip, you try and do, if you can, get in early enough to do Broome to Wyndham, because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
But people don't want to go there for formality. They want that sort of out there adventurous sort of experience, and they get it.
I'm Rodney Fox, and I nearly died. All my life since then, 50, 60 years, just wondering why I've been left on earth, what God has got for me. Whether I should preach about sharks or whether I should do this or the other. And it's really is to tell everybody on this earth how good the Kimberleys are.
So Rodney Fox was a great supporter of ours in the early days. He absolutely loves adventuring and finding new places to go to. So we were lucky enough that Rodney, who had a passion and love of wanting to explore and adventure in remote outback places, quite often brought groups of people from all around the world, and we would explore the Kimberley together. So despite never being in business before and having no real vision what we thought, we just wanted to have a cruise boat that worked in the Kimberley, and all we hoped for was to be busy enough to pay our mortgage and draw a salary, So that had been happening for about 3 or 4 years when we started talking about boat number 2.
We had actually drawn up a monohull boat for the Kimberley, and one day, as the stages were getting completed with the design work, Gav came to me and said, look, have you ever thought about a catamaran? And we went, oh nah, cats don't work, they're hard to ride in, they're this, they're that. And then he overlaid what we had drawn for the Great Escape over the top of the catamaran, and it was unbelievable. The cat was, I reckon, a good, 3 metres bigger all round.
You really need a purpose-built boat for this area, and this one in particular, we spent a lot of time in designing it and getting everything right to what we needed and how it was set up. And a liverboard boat that's out for a long time, especially in the Kimberleys, which is so isolated. So it was all purposely built for what we do. And we also had to purposely build it for the Rolly Shoals, because we do the Rolly Shoals diving. It needed to be very accessible for divers in and out of water.
Great Escape, true style. Come down 6:30, we're going to interview you. I'm like, okay, we'll be on the boat. We had to have some toast, we had to have coffee. I get here and I'm on the rocks without any water.
At least we're not on the Great Escape on the rocks.
Trippy and Kylie, they've just got such a good product. They love what they do. They've got so much drive, so much energy. So for a boat with small numbers, I've got a list on my phone, it's probably got about 40 contacts and they all start with great. And it's quite fitting. All the different crew members that have come through, different chefs. It's that small a business that it's really easy to create a tight-knit family. I love it.
It can be a challenge some days, and you sort of wipe your sweat off your brow at the end of the day and go, that was a good one. But the guests love it, and that's the most rewarding thing. At the end of the day, it makes everything we do so worthwhile when at the end of a trip, the guests are like family, and you get off and they have tears when they get off the boat because they've just had an absolute ball and gotten to know all the crew as family.
I'd never been on boats before when I started working for Kylie and Trippy, but I always found that everyone always chipped in and helped you out when you needed it, and I think you had the best office. You were sitting there, you could see everywhere out your window, sitting there getting up in the morning, preparing your breakfast and being able to watch the sunrise, and then preparing dinner and seeing the sunset. It was the best chefing job you could ever have.
When I first met Kylie and Trippy, I was living on Rottnest Island as a young dive master. Sort of didn't own a pair of shoes, never wore a shirt, long blonde hair, all that sort of stuff, the stuff Sarah fell in love with. So this particular day, this 26 metre catamaran, shining white, as we all know Great Escape to be, rocks up out the back of all the moorings and drops the pick. And like I'm in there in the dive shop, just like a dog on heat, just like, oh my God, got to get out to that boat. Who owns that boat? Got to get talking to those guys. These guys were down at the wharf and they were fueling up or something like that with one of their tenders and getting their tanks filled or whatever they were doing. And I'm there driving this boat, this dive boat, from the mooring to the jetty. And I could have just gone straight in and tied up, but I wanted to sort of show off my boat driving skills on this young guy. I was like 18, 17, 18 or something like that. So I'm driving around in circles, like splitting it, doing bog laps and doing 360s, like, hey, Trippy, it's all right, I've just lost an engine, but I've got this under control. I can drive a boat sort of thing. And anyways, I going around, it was just so embarrassing to think back how I was acting, but got it tied up and I'm like, yeah, boat broke down. I handled it. I get out of those situations. It's no worries sort of thing. By the way, like I said the other day, really like a job up there if I could get one.
I met Jezza and Kylie on the Great Escape down in Fremantle at Northport. And one of our former pilots came down and he said, there's some people that own the Great Escape looking to put a helicopter on the deck because the helicopter they were using is gone now and they need another one. So I said, okay, that sounds good. So I jumped in one of our helicopters at the time and flew it down to Fremantle and landed on the Great Escape, and that's how I met them, on their boat.
The Great Escape actually took on my family, but we brought them on the boat and we went right up to the Hunter River, and basically we were planning to work as a team or as together pretty much and get to know each other a bit more. I suppose from the Dumby side, because I'm Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander. But yeah, and then after the trip I pretty much kept in contact, or tried to keep in contact with Kylie and Trippy. Saw Kylie and asked her if she had any Takadeki roles, and from there she pretty much offered me the full-time position from there.
Without a doubt, the Kimberleys has got it all. The last frontier in the world, and it's a beautiful place to be.
We always say it's like the equivalent of going to the great cathedrals of Europe. These are the great cathedrals of Australia. I frankly don't know why anyone would go to Europe when they could go to the Kimberley instead.
I have never seen a group of people like the Aboriginal people and their affinity with the land. And it's only when you get up here that you can actually understand why they have such an affinity with the land and where the stories come from of their dream time. And it is quite incredible.
All the knowledge is from thousands of years ago, back when my ancestors were living off the land. But for me to actually go up and actually see it with my own two eyes, it's just, words can't really explain the feeling that I get out of actually working in that area, knowing that my ancestors were all here once upon a time.
So there's a couple of different native title determinations throughout the Kimberley, and working with those guys has been fantastic, and their love of their land, and it's their job to protect this land. You know, they have their spirits there, and it's important for them that the land is looked after into the future and is in the same condition that we find it now.
With painting, it's a connection to us, because with the art, with the painting they have actually used, it is mostly traditional things that are from the bush that we use, especially the ochre.
The Great Escape has done an amazing job with collaborating with the traditional owners up and around, working around the country. And I see that's the way of the future, that's the way we're heading. And they're not beating around the bush or cutting corners, they're sorting it out with us and keeping us in the loop of what's going on.
It's so special, and so few people get to see what we've seen, and you know, we count our blessings.
Especially with the use of the helicopter to get to rock art and places that you just can't otherwise get to. It's that makes it pretty special.
It influences your perception of the place, because you're seeing everything, you're so close, you get to touch it, but then you get back to this boat each night and you don't have to leave it to explore it. You're actually there for a good period of time.
So we are always looking for new places. As soon as we get an opportunity, we're off and walking. And there was grass sometimes up to our waist, there was rocks and boulders and climbing, and I didn't know where I was going. It was a sort of just go and have a bit of a look and have an explore. And yeah, we came across these are beautiful little bradshaw paintings. And the guests didn't believe me that I hadn't been there before. They thought I must have been leading them to a place that I'd been to, you know, because how could possibly there be this art, you know? And you've just found it. It's like, yeah, it's the Kimberley. There's literally art around every corner. It's just a matter of having that time to explore and get out there amongst it.
It's always changing because of the tide or the amount of water they've had for that year, or the, you know, do you arrive there at the sunset time, or yeah, they're always evolving and adapting to suit what's happening on the day. So, you know, I think that's important as well.
All the information that you get on the trip is brilliant too. You learn fishing skills, or you hone them. You learn history. The Aboriginal rock art is just incredible, and experiencing this part of our country is so remote. It's the only way to get there, and once you're there, you really just don't want to do anything else.
You know, the rolly shoals, I tell people about the drop-offs there and the drifting and how you'd get picked up. And the currents are just big enough to carry you past, and how the water was like 200 or 300 foot visibility. It was fantastic. It's wonderful. It's one of my best memories of diving, that sort of dive.
It's just three huge atolls, and they're 15 kilometres by 6 kilometres, I think they were. And they're just covered in coral, like literally just one huge, gigantic bommy, covered in beautiful corals.
People who don't think they're into fishing have really got into it in a big way, because it's quite different from anything else you do. And we have a number of friends that came up with us last time who've never been fishing in their lives, and now they're extremely keen fishermen.
Brenda holds the record for the barra, which I will surpass it. But at the moment, Brenda holds the record for the barra.
Can I just say my biggest barra is 1.14 metres. So
it's over.
He's going to have to really catch a big barra to beat that record.
Party night. We loved party night. I do have some weird visions of people in costumes and changing costumes.
Kay nearly died from laughing. It was so grand. And they found all these strange, wonderful things making on the boat. It was incredible how somebody needed a silver belt, and we made it out of pool can rings.
Everything we do together. So if we do picnics, we do fishing, we do walk and a swim, we go to art sites and things like that. We do as a group, and not do separate things all the time, although they can if they want to go off somewhere in the helicopter or even the dinghy. You do all these things, and you get to know them, and you get to know their lives and their stories, and you make some really good friends out of what we're doing.
Having lived now in WA for a few years, I think we can both say that without a doubt, we think the Kimberley is the best place in the world.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's why we made that call to come on board a third time, just to see some of that country.
Saying honestly, working with Jezza, Trippy and Kylie has changed our lives, set us up for life. It's the amount we learned off them, and becoming part of that family that is the Great Escape family that any one guest or crew or supplier or whatever gets welcomed into, and then we took that to do all those things overseas that we've done since, and we still are great friends with Jezza, Trippy and Kylie, and stay in touch with them all the time, and absolutely love them to bits. They're a big part of our lives.
Yeah, I think watching that family grow their business and do it in such a unique way, with a unique style, they plan. They're really careful planning people, but at the same time, you can just see they just trust their gut. They know where they go is really special. They're brilliant at what they do, and everybody that comes into contact with them just feels drawn into their circle. Everyone feels part of their family.
I just feel honoured to be a little part of them getting established and getting going. I mean, seeing Seeing people succeed in their own businesses gives me a real feeling of joy.
My message to Kylie and Trippy and Jezza and all the team at Great Escape is happy 20th anniversary, and I hope the next 20 years is going to be just as good as the last 20 years.
We're very proud of our mum and dad. Pretty amazing what they've done, where they've came from and what they are now.
And what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I just like to say to me two best mates, the partners, Trippy and Kylie, you've been fantastic in the 20 years, eh? We've known each other, well, we work together, and gee, you know, we've had a lot of fun together, done a lot of things together, and hopefully we'll do more together. And I wish you great on the new venture. See you, boys.